Hi, I'm Jennifer Johnson. Thanks for stopping by the channel. This channel is about raising sheep for their wool. My husband and I raise a beautiful flock of soft Shetland sheep, and I talk mostly about just what it's like taking care of them and enjoying their wool. So thanks for stopping by. If you're new, welcome, and if you are a returning viewer, thanks for your support. I really appreciate it. So today, I just wanted to talk about our wool harvest. We sheared last Sunday, and I now am working on trying to get all the fleeces sorted and organized so that I can offer them to hand spinners in the form of an auction. And I'm planning at this point to have the auction begin on May 21st and conclude on May 28th. So that's the plan right now. So between now and then, I've got quite a bit of work to do. And I just wanted to show you what's involved after shearing, just to give you a little more insight into what goes on with raising sheep for their wool. So what I do is I break the fleeces into 3 categories. And what I'm going to do in this video is talk about those 3 categories, what the criteria are, and then I'm going to show you a few examples of fleeces that fit into those. And the 3 categories are fleeces I offer to hand spinners, fleeces that I enjoy processing myself, either into bats or into yarn, and then the 3rd category is fleeces that go into comb top. So the first fleece we're going to look at is the ram fleece. I don't coat my rams. I do coat all of my ewes, and the reason for putting the coats on is to keep the wool clean so that they make a nicer product for a hand spinner to enjoy. But the rams we don't coat, mainly because we have a concern about their safety. If a ram gets his leg caught in the straps or something, they become immediately vulnerable and the other rams in the flock will attack them. That doesn't happen on the ewes. So it's just kind of a ram behavior. So this fleece, I harvested off our ram Harry. Now, we had 3 rams in the flock this year whose fleeces just pretty much fell off of them before shearing day. And the reason for that is they hit the rise. So that's the weak spot in the fleece. And the rams, they're not coated, first of all, so more at risk of losing wool to the pasture or whatever. But the other thing is they're constantly jostling and rubbing against each other, very physical with each other, and that does tend to rub the fiber off as well. So this is what I got from Harry, which is not a lot when you think about how big he is. So the ram fleeces are, very dirty, number 1, because of not having the coats, and they also have a very distinctive odor, which is really difficult to get out of their wool. It's like a muskiness, and it's difficult to wash at home. So the mills do a really good job of getting that odor out of the fleeces. So the ram fleeces all go into my comb top category. Comb top is a type of fiber prep that is done at a fiber mill. I use Xylingers, and I have a really good video interview I did with April at Xylingers, and she talks about the process. But it's a pretty intense process to get the fibers nicely lined up, no neps or noils, and it's very well suited for extra fine fleeces like ours. So that's what I mean when I say comb top. Those are going to go to the mill and get processed to hand spinners, and the comb top comes back in a rope form, so it's really nice to spin. So that's going to go into the comb top, all of it, the entire fleece. I did take off some of the very, very dirty sections, and I actually just see one here, that are very caked in manure. You can see this just covered in it. And that goes into a compost bag. But Harry's fleece, I mean, it is just incredibly fine. Most of the stuff that we were able to harvest was from like his britch and on his back. So not the premium wool. Most of the premium wool, unfortunately, is, you know, out there in the pasture because that got rubbed off of him. It's all right. So that's the ram fleece that goes into comb top. The next fleece I want to talk about is a fleece from a ewe that we sheared. And I just want you to see, just looking at this is the skin side of her wool. You see just how fine and crimpy it is. It's so nice. So this is from our ewe Hermione. She's a ewe lamb. That means she was born last year. So the first year of their life, they're called lambs. So it's kind of confusing, right? Because we have lambs right now on the farm that are just being born, that are days old. All of my last year's ewes, once they turn a year, then they're going to be called yearlings. So this is actually a lamb fleece because it's the fleece that Hermione produced when she was a lamb, if that makes sense. So now Hermione was sheared, and I sheared 39 sheep out of the flock, which means I'm going to be ruing 25, 30, something like that. And I've rued quite a few already. I just have a couple left to go. So this fleece from Hermione, I already skirted it, went through it, looked at the back to see what the shearing quality was, and decided that this is a nice fleece to offer to a hand spinner. Now this was sheared and not rued, so that means that Erin used the clippers to remove the fleece from this ewe. The reason I selected this ewe to be sheared was just because she didn't have a real weak break that made it easy for me to rue. So it was better for her to be sheared. So I have pretty strict criteria for fleeces that I am going to be offering to hand spinners. Number one, they have to have a really good shearing quality, no second cuts, no neps or noils on the base of the fleece. They have to be extremely clean. So I coat all my fleeces. The only fleece fiber that is offered to hand spinners is the fleece that's underneath the coat, so very clean. I also like to offer fleeces that have a longer staple length, anything longer than 2. I do have a few ewes in the flock who gave me fleeces this year that were less than 2 inches, and those will be ones that I'm going to keep for myself to process. So those are, yeah, that's the criteria that I adhere to for fleeces that I'm offering to a hand spinner. I said it: clean, good staple length, and good shearing quality, which Hermione's fit the bill perfectly. The next fleece that I'm going to show you is a rude fleece. Now these are really special, I think. Anyway, this is a fleece that came from our ewe Lucretia. And not to tip my hand or anything, but I think this is one of my favorite fleeces, and a lovely ewe as well. She's very friendly. She came from the 2020 group of ewes. So this is her, let me think, this is her second fleece. So this is her yearling fleece. So she's now 2, but she produced this fleece when she was 1 year old. So after they are a lamb, the next year we call them yearlings. So this is a rude fleece. All of my rude fleeces come in 2 pieces. I do one side, I rue from the back down to the belly, only ruing off the stuff that's under the coat, and then I go on the other side. And I do that for a couple reasons. Number one is sometimes the ewe is uncomfortable being rude. It doesn't hurt them, but they're just not used to it. And so I break it up into 2 sessions. Another reason why sometimes they don't rue as easily, my hands get really sore. So I'll do 1/2, and then I know I have a more difficult ewe to rue in the future, and I plan accordingly because I know it'll take me a little bit longer. So they're offered in 2 sections, and rude fleeces just, you know, I look at them as the cream of the crop. I work extremely hard as I'm ruing to ensure that it's all in one piece and that your lock structure, your tips are maintained. And I do that for my customers that are flicking or combing the fleeces. I do have hand spinners that will send their fleeces to a mill, which is great. Good option you have there as well. But yeah, so Lucretia's fleece, I still have a little bit that I'm going to skirt off of this. There is some little bit of dirt around the perimeter, and that's just because I wanted to make sure that I got all of the good stuff so I can go back and skirt that off later. And the root fleeces have this beautiful, the base of the staple is just very cloudy, very pristine and perfect, just as nature intended. You're not going to have any weak spots in the fleece with a root fleece. You're not going to have any pilling on the back because the whole staple length is all of the same thickness. You don't have a break because I've pulled it at the break. So that's that fleece, Lucretia's. And Lucretia is a white ewe. This, you know, this is just dirt. We don't coat them right away at the beginning of the summer. We start coats on when we give hay. This year we put the lambs in coats a little bit earlier than usual because we needed to do hay earlier. I can't remember, it was pretty dry in July. And then the rain came back, so it was good. So a lot of the lambs got coats because the lambs are shorter and they are, you know, more likely to get hay in them. And then the older ewes got probably like August. I can't remember exactly when the coats went on. So there is a little bit of staining and sun bleaching on the tips of the fleeces, but it washes right out really easily. You shouldn't have to, if you source a fleece from me, you shouldn't spend more than 5 minutes, if that long, picking out bits of hay and stuff. All right, so that's the nice rude fleece. And here is a fleece that is sheared from Tatiana. I decided to shear her, again, because she didn't have a real weak break. And I've decided that I'm going to process her because, I'll show you. I sheared her, but she did have a significant rise. And so there's issues on the underside of this fleece that prevent it from being one that I will offer to a hand spinner. And there's a couple issues. And it's okay, because I need stuff to process too. So this will be one that I'll get to work with. And I'm excited about the prospect of actually processing a lamb fleece. All right, so there's two issues here. One of the issues is, sorry about the wind here. You can see a very clear weak spot in this lock. It's right there. This is what would have been next year's growth. So if I'd root her, that would have still been on her. And what's going to happen when you comb or flick that, it's going to come off as waste, and you've just bought that as waste. If you send it to the mill, that's the same thing. You're also going to end up with a pretty poor yield on a fleece, and that's something that I'm not comfortable, hand spinners. So that's one of the issues. The other issue is not a reflection on the shearer, but probably more just where she was in the rise. There are sections of the fleece where there are what's called second cuts, where the shearer had to go back over the same spot twice. And what happens there is then you have these second cuts. They're too short to be of any value. They're going to end up being waste. So the fleeces that I sort into the comb top category are going to go into an additional subcategory by color. I do 5 colors of comb top, and I have to have those in separate bags when I submit them to the mill. So I have my comb top Morit, which is brown. The black. I have white, fawn, and gray. So this is how I do it. I've got very, very large plastic bags in my handy ladder back chairs. I also have a bag designated for compost. So that's going to be, very dirty, heavily caked bits, really short bits, scraps, pieces that like came off the tail or whatnot. So those will go into my compost bin. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to use Xylingers again. They are going to be at the Central New York Fiber Festival, which is June 11th in Bouckville, which is Central New York, kind of near Syracuse. So I'm going to be bringing all of this raw wool in my van along with all the wheels and all the stuff that I bring to sell. And then I'll be dropping it off with them at that event. And it just saves me on shipping. So I have, this year, I'm probably going to have a lot of gray and a lot of fawn. My gray numbers have increased as a percent of the flock. And then I held over more black rams than I normally do. So I'm probably going to have a good amount of black comb top. White will most likely be my smaller number. I'm going to probably struggle to get to the 5-pound inbound minimum that they charge. And then Moret, that's probably going to be a good amount too. So I'm trying to get more even frequency with all the different colors, but at this point in time, white still struggling to keep up. That's why it was so sickening watching Harry lose all that wool to the pasture. I probably lost, I don't know, a pound of wool. So anyway, so that's just an additional step there, is to sort that into the 5 different color bags. This is the table where all the paperwork, all the documentation is kept. Normally this is inside the garage. I can't film things in our garage because it's too sloppy. I'm too embarrassed. So the things I use when I'm skirting fleeces and getting them categorized and documented, I have my scale, and I have this really cute little footstool that I just bought. It was my aunt's, and she put it in a little secondhand store, and I grabbed it because I remember it from when I was little. Anyway, I set that upside down on the scale. The bags fit in there perfectly, so it's really easy to they just sit in there. I learned this trick from a guy that owned a mill. He had a big plastic stool that he had upside down, and I just thought that was so clever. So there's the scale. I get a weight before and after skirting, and that's on the fleeces that I'm going to offer to hand spinners. On any of the other fleeces, I just do the before weight, because the comb top ones I don't really skirt them, and the ones I'm processing I don't skirt either because I use all the dirty wool and everything. So every sheep has this card. On the one side is all the information that we collect while I'm skirting and weighing. Information like the inbound pre-skirted and post-skirted weight. Same thing with the rude fleeces, what the weight was under the coat versus the neck and the breech. These records are important. I put them in a spreadsheet, and I use it later on when I'm looking at a ewe to say, you know, what was her yield? How much was there wasted? How much breech did we throw into comb top that I could have processed or whatever? Because I want to minimize that, right? I want a ewe that's going to produce really good, high quality, high yield fleeces. Then I make a note about the shearing quality. You know, if I see a lot of second cuts or evidence of there being a break because of the rise. And then I mark down the disposition, sell, process, or put into comb top, those 3 categories. And on the other side, I just tape a copy of the micron report, and then a sample, a little sample lock. And this is a really great card. We refer to this throughout the year for deciding who we want to keep in the flock and who we want to offer to other breeders. We use it to decide who we're going to breed with. Just all sorts of stuff. If I'm looking, I go back and look at cards, like let's say I'm looking at a progeny of somebody and I want to see what the parent looked like to see if we improved. You know, we'll go back and refer to the cards. So really important, really great tool. So because of the cards, I have my stack of cut up micron data. And then I don't have any here, but I have these little blank, this is just my checklist. So what I'll do is I'll put a link in the notes for this particular video with this document. So if you wanted to use it yourself, you can just download it easily enough. I also keep the spreadsheet, so I download, or print out, excuse me, the entire flock on a little page here from my spreadsheet so that we can check off that we completed them, and then just double check all the data, the ear tag, who the parents are, and stuff like that. So the other tools that we have are a ruler, which is what I use to measure the staple length, and I also take a photo of the staple up against the ruler. So if it isn't off a hand spinner's fleece I'm offering for sale, that photo will go with the listing, and you can see what the staple length is. Some of you might like shorter staple length. Some of you might like to you know, hand card and spin long draw, you know, do a nice woolen with a shorter fleece, or make one of those bumbly yarn, you know, whatever. I mean, so I try to give you as much data as possible. My stapler, so I can staple the lock, and a roll of tape to tape all the paper down. Pen to make notes, and then I bring out my camera because I like the still photos, my JPEG photos that I get off of my camera. And just so you know, my skirting table is 2 pieces of grid wall. That is actually what I use in my pop-up stores, and some carpenter horses, or whatever you want to call them. I also take a photograph of every fleece that I'm offering for sale. That's why I have that footstool there, because I like to get a nice aerial view so you can see the whole fleece spread out on the 2 pieces of grid wall. So that's another part of the step. Up here normally in the garage, like I said, where I'm doing all this work. And then the balance of the work, once I've got them all done, is actually sitting at the computer. So at the computer, the work I have to do first is I enter all of the data that I've collected in a spreadsheet, and I keep that every year. I make a new spreadsheet for this, which is wool information for every sheep in that flock, for that year. Then I have to transfer all of the photos from the camera to that particular sheep's Google album. I have an album for each sheep in the Google Photos app. Create the card that goes with the fleece. So that's that data sheet where I have a picture of the ewe. It's what goes with the fleeces when they go to a hand spinner. Make a listing on the website for the fleeces that I'm offering to the hand spinners, which includes a photo of the fleece, a photo of the ewe, the micron report, actual PDF of the report, any details or anecdotes about that particular ewe, the weight of the fleece, the color, the pattern of the sheep, any other information that a hand spinner needs to make a decision. Then I have to calculate the price and add that price. That's always based on the weight of the fleece, whether it was sheared or rued, and the color of the wool, because some colors are more popular than others. Hopefully this gives you a little insight into the work that's done after shearing. I think shearing gets a lot of attention, but a lot of the legwork afterwards helps to make sure the hand spinners are getting a really high quality product that fills them with joy and allows them to make something that they can treasure for a long time. Hopefully I kind of gave you some better insight into what happens after shearing day. Shearing day always gets a lot of the press, but there's quite a bit of lead work effort that goes on afterward. And I just wanted you to understand how I really put a lot of effort into making sure that the fleeces that go to hand spinners are very top quality, and that the hand spinner has all the information that they need to make a decision so that they can enjoy this fleece and make some beautiful things with that fiber that they're going to treasure for a lifetime. Saudi's low ram, more at ram. There's her black ewe lamb. Oh. These are a couple days old. And Audi had a really quiet labor. She just kind of up and down, and out they came faster than we were even able to keep track of what was going on. And any of the ewes that I'm ruing that have coats on, I take the coats off after they have their lambs. They're not in danger of being mauled by the flock because they're in here with their lambs. And I'm nervous about the lambs getting caught up in the straps. Coat. So the coat comes off, and I'll root her here in her pen with her lambs shortly. That's a little treasure right there. Just hoping to get a little black lamb. Little black ewe, I mean. This is Brienne and her little family. Brienne was bred to Harry, our white ram. White dominates as a pattern over solid, so genetics worked in our favor and we got 2 beautiful white lambs, which is what we were hoping for. And this one is a little ram. And the other lamb hiding over here is our little ewe. So she came out last. She's got a little bit of yellow still on her fleece, and that's just sometimes when the labor takes a little longer than it should, they'll get this yellow stuff on them. I don't know what it's called. It's a sign that the ewe was having a little bit of a little trouble getting the lambie out. But she's fine now. Oh my gosh. Did you just have a snack? So it's unusual to have the ram lamb smaller than the ewe, but that's how they look. The ewe looks really good. So we got our white ewe lamb in a nutshell. That's the good news here in this stall. So this is Mabel's little Moret spotted ewe lamb. And Mabel is a first-time mother. And she's brown. She's Moret because she's got that brown spot, even though most of her wool is white. And this year, you can see she ended up with some brown spots. They weren't there last year that I recall. And I have to roo Mabel here at some point. You're my sweet girl, aren't you? Yes, I know. So this is Lakshmi. She had a little gray Catmugget ram. We bred her to Jon Snow. And just a single. He's pretty big though. He's gonna have a nice fleece. And you can see, again, I brewed Lakshmi. Still have to finish her off, and I'll do that before she leaves her lambing jug. A nice long drink there, aren't ya? How would that taste? Is that good? He needs a lot of food because he's so big. That's a pretty dark gray Catmugget. This is Fanny. She and Duncan had a Moret ewe lamb and a fawn Catmugget ram lamb. He thinks I'm his mother. Very silly boy. This is Yuki's ewe. A little gray cat nugget. Flash. Another ewe, oh goodness. Elizabeth's lamb, a little gray cat nugget ewe. A little bit windy today. What's that? These are Aria's rams. Aria. She had a little white ram and a green cat nugget ram. She was bred to Harry. He had to be. They're just chilling. I've just finished chores and I noticed one of my ram lambs, Fanny's ram lamb, he's not eating as well as I'd like. He seems a little bit weak. We tube fed him yesterday. We did 2 tube feedings in the morning and the evening of 4 ounces each. When I put him up against the teat, he's sucking and stuff, but for whatever reason he's having a hard time finding it. So today what I want to do is I want to feed him with a bottle. So I'm going to express milk out of Fanny. She's got tons of milk, so that's good. And then try and get him to drink from the bottle today rather than tube feeding, kind of as a transition. Ultimately, you're gonna see in a week or so, he's going to be perfectly fine and going after the teat on his mom. His twin sister is also, she's on the small side and she's doing fine. She's eating okay. We did tube feed her yesterday morning just to be sure. Can't hurt to tube feed him in our opinion, so was able to express enough milk from Fanny to get both of them. So I'm gonna just video myself expressing milk out of Fanny and then feeding her little ram with the bottle, or at least trying to for the first time. start to express some milk from mother. This is the ram, and he's just a little quivery. He's not filling out. I guess his belly's got a little something going on there, so that's good. But I was observing him this morning, and he was just kind of hovering over the nipple. But he can suck, and I don't know, it's just a weird thing that we're just going to take care of. We're just going to help him along. Okay, mother. And this is one of the benefits of having sheep that are comfortable with you, is that you can work with them. Here, sweetheart. Fanny's kind of that way. She's just a very chill ewe, so. Get you like this. And many times, if their udders are full, which hers is, they kind of, once you get started expressing, look, he's trying to drink off of me right now. They kind of let you do it because it feels good. So if I mean, I nursed my boys, and I know that if your tits are full of milk, it feels really good to get it expressed. So I just kind of grab the udder. She's got a really nice big teat too, so it makes it easy. I kind of reach up the udder and sort of imagine that I'm squishing the milk down into the teat. And as I'm doing this, the little ram is looking for my teat in my crotch region. So you know he may actually be eating by now, but okay, so that udder is nice and soft. I'm gonna work the other one. Being very careful not to spill this liquid gold here. Here. He just pushes, but he's just not finding it. We'll help you out here. I just want to get milk in him though. When she kicks her leg up like that, get the milk out of the way. You don't want to lose it. I always use a fairly large container. This one's a measuring cup. It's got the handle. Just real handy for if she kicks or whatever, or objects to what I'm doing. So I want to try and get 4 ounces for him. We're getting there. And both of her udders are nice and soft, although they're a little bit full. You can feel their milk in there. And don't worry if you get a little bit of hay or whatever in there. That'll settle to the bottom. You can just pour out the top. So this is day 3. So this is no longer colostrum. This is just milk in here. The question is going to come up, I'm sure, is have I ever done anything with the milk, like make cheese or anything like that? And my answer is no. So we're not a dairy operation. There's stuff about doing dairy where if I over milk her, she's going to produce more milk, and then if I don't milk her every day, she could get mastitis or something, which is just an infection of the, all right, fella. I don't know, so it's just something I don't want to deal with, so I don't. We just kind of try to keep it as focused on the lambs as we can. All right, so I'm just gonna pour the milk in here, try and make sure that that bit of hay doesn't make its way in there. No big deal. I'm not concerned about this ram. I've had other lambs that are just a little slow, and they get it eventually. Don't ya? Alright. I got plenty. I told you Fanny's she's got plenty of milk. So let's see what we got here. I have 8 ounces. So I'm gonna try and get him to take half of the bottle, 4 ounces. That fills him up pretty good. Now this is how I do it. I kind of hold the sides of their lips with my thumb and index finger, force the mouth open, and I hold the nipple in place. They don't, oops. Sometimes when you watch on TV where they just put the nipple down and the sheep, the first time they do it, it's not easy for them. So you kind of have to guide it in there. See, you're sucking. Tube feeding is nicer because it's so much faster to get the milk in there. So we did that yesterday, and today a bottle is fine to get him sucking, get that reflex working. I'm just helping him along. I don't see this guy as being at risk in any way. What do you think, Mom? You okay with me being here? So this bottle I got at Premier, and the teats come separately. And if you're gonna have lambs, get these in advance. It's extremely important to be ready for anything. And I did a video a couple weeks ago about our lambing supplies checklist. And I'll put a link here to that video. And in the comments of that video, there's the checklist that we use. Just be ready. You do not want to be running to Tractor Supply. I mean, if you need something at 3 in the morning, I mean, hopefully you live near somebody that has sheep if you're not ready. So I'm supporting his head, keeping his head up so the milk flows right down. Nice and easy. I won't have to do this if I'm still bottle feeding him, which I'm not going to be. But if it is a bottle lamb eventually, so there's Sissy right now going at the teeth, and she latches on really good. Yeah, there she is. Oh, are you on there? All right, and it is kind of a mess. There's a little relief hole here for the pressure, so sometimes the milk gets all over, so that bothers you. I just kind of wear my real heavy duty Carhartt. So that's nice. This is good. So belly is nice and full. Yeah, are you gonna take a nice little nap now? You feel better? Mister? Your milky face? Alright, I think it's time for you to take a nap. And now I'm gonna try and throw a little bit in Sissy. So I have, I don't know, 3 ounces left. It's possible that her nipple is too big for their little mouths. But I've seen her latch on already before. I'm gonna help her out here. You go take a nap. We're done. Come here, sis. We'll get you going. Do a nice breakfast. She's not sucking as vigorous, so that's why I think she's getting milk already. Here we go. These, I just love them. When we first have them, when they first are born, I always put them on the teat to make sure that they have a sucking reflex and are drinking. And both of them did fine with that, but yeah, I think it's about the fact that her teats have a really big diameter, and these guys are teeny weeny. I love how chill Fanny is, that I can just sit in here and she doesn't get worked up. There's a couple of my youth that get really antsy. She's not hungry. You'd rather drink off of mommy, huh? Yeah. Yeah. A little bit messy. We're a little messy, but that's okay. Mom will clean us off. Okay. Okay. There we go. All right, so that's what I do in that situation. And yeah, I think if you're going to have lambs, be prepared to have to express milk out of your ewe. I don't know how you prepare for that, but like I said, with me it was pretty much I had done it because I was a nursing mother, but I'm sure there's a YouTube video about how to express milk. All right, there you go. They're going to be fine. Right. Hey, it's time for a nap.